Hello and welcome to CCTV's Center for Media and Democracy. I'm Matt Kelly. Today on TMT, Town Meeting Television, we're going to be learning about the ECOS project, what it is, and the impact of Chittenden County residents. And joining me today to discuss this are Charlie Baker. He is Executive Director of CCRPC, that is the Chittenden County Regional Planning Commission. We also have Frank Chaffee. He's President of GBIC, the Greater Burlington Industrial Conference. Was that correct?
Corporation, but
Corporation, Greater Burlington Industrial Corporation. And also Penrose Jackson, and she is the Director of Community Health Improvement at Fletcher Allen. Welcome to you both. First, let's begin and introduce yourselves. Tell us a little bit about yourselves and how you actually came to the ECOS project.
Okay, I'll start off. The Regional Planning Commission, we have a responsibility every few years under state law to do a regional plan. And really, a few years ago, there was some federal funding opportunity made available, and we were just kind of talking to other folks like Penrose and Frank. Our transportation plan also needed to be updated. And so we really started talking about, could we do this as one process? So we typically, for the past 20 or 30 years, have had 3 different planning documents for Chittenden County, one dealing with economic development, one dealing with transportation, and one general regional plan. The ECOS project is really an effort to pull that together, so that's kind of how we got started.
Right. And Frank, how did you come to be involved with the project?
Well, GBIC is a regional economic development corporation that serves Chittenden County. In the state of Vermont, there are 12 regional planning commissions, which Charlie is one for Chittenden County, and 12 regional economic development corporations. And our assignment is to do the economic development programs and services for Chittenden County for the state of Vermont. We're a nonprofit. We've been around since 1954. And basically have been writing economic plans since our inception that work with the county. We saw ECOS as the best way to partner with our Regional Planning Commission, which is our strategic and collaborative partner. Mm-hmm. So it's a great opportunity to do a new economic plan for Chittenden County, and also to do what's called a comprehensive economic development strategy, or CEDS. You'll hear us say CEDS, but that's what it is. And that is a document that will hopefully be sanctioned and approved by the Economic Development Administration so that all the municipalities in Chittenden County can apply for federal grants for infrastructure development and assistance. So that's why we do the CEDS portion of it. The economic plan portion is more of an action plan that looks at how we retain our best jobs, our best employers, and how we seek to grow them in the future.
It sounds like it was a natural synergy between your two organizations to come together on this ECOS project.
Right. Yeah, we work pretty closely together.
Wonderful. And Penrose, your involvement in the project began how?
Yeah, I think it came through a variety of means. I was very closely associated with the Champlain Initiative, which was a healthy community initiative, began in 1995, and worked on that for several years. I also had been on the Regional Planning Commission and seen the development and growth and formulation of the regional plan, I think 1.5 times during my tenure there, and felt that it was all the plans were really lacking kind of the human dimension, the human component. So Charlie approached me to serve in the capacity of helping chair the effort, and I said, as long as you know that I'm going to be there to get people into the plan and to think about the social determinants of health. And frankly, I don't think we can have a sustainable region if we don't have healthy people. We can't have healthy people if we don't have a sustainable region. So I came from enlightened self-interest.
And Charlie, you know, as we get into this and you tell us what the ECOS project is, it sounds that it's quite wide-ranging and much more encompassing than just a regional plan of the past, as you alluded to in your introduction. Tell us a little bit more about that.
And I think that really kind of started with, you know, us talking about transportation and the economy, and our normal regional plan elements. So the state law says we have to deal with 11 things, you know, that deal with the environment and housing and the economy, energy, community facilities. Doesn't really talk too much about people. So I'll give credit to Penrose, but also just the conversations that were going on in Chittenden County with United Way, with the hospital, with the colleges and universities, around education and health, and realizing even when I think early on we had a consultant doing a survey of employers, and yeah, they mentioned some things that you would typically expect, but then they also mentioned affordable housing, and they mentioned education as needs within the community. So it really became clear that we had to talk about everything. And so I think the plan itself, I think we ended up with 18 topic areas. So all the things I just mentioned, probably some things I didn't mention were climate change, diversity,
Energy.
equity. So it really does try to touch on those things, and we spent a lot of time kind of last winter, last spring, trying to understand what's going on in each of those areas, what are the key issues, and how best to track progress in those areas. So we came up with indicators. So if you look at Chapter 2 of the draft plan.
Do you want to bring it up a little bit and let some of our viewers see some of this? Or?
Yeah, I can walk you through real quickly the outline of the plan document. And of course, the reason we're really talking about this, and you mentioned the public hearing on March 20th.
Right.
Actually, let me back up to that. Is there's really three ways to provide input on this. One is we have an email address, info@ccrpcvt.org. You can go to the web page, which is www.ecosproject.com/plan, or you can come to a public hearing that we're having March 20th, 6 p.m. at the Sheridan. And we'll do the same thing there a little bit. We'll walk quickly through the plan document, but we're really looking at feedback now on this draft plan. And real quickly, I just walk through Chapter 1 is kind of basic introduction, vision, mission type things. We talk a little bit about the public process, which there's been a ton. One of the things that came out of this, and I'm showing a piece of art here really, but it really came out of community conversations. We spent 120 hours at the Champlain Valley Fair in August. Ice cream socials, meetings with select boards, with planning commissions, with employers.
And I think it's kind of important to note that this plan wasn't created in a vacuum of office space. You have literally gone out into the community seeking public input from the residents and the citizens at large to ask what they want in these specific areas that would improve their quality of life. Is that
That's
the gist
really
of it?
true, yeah, kind of what concerns them and what do they think needs to be addressed more. And the really, I think, great thing for us, I shouldn't leave out that we've had 65 partners at this ECO steering committee. So Penrose was one of the co-chairs, and I want to give credit to Sandy Miller, who was the city manager of South Burlington, who was the other co-chair, and really helped us kind of have some balance and bring also municipal perspective to the process. But we had 65 partner organizations. Wow. And so I say organizations, that means there were people behind those organizations, and we often had 2 or 3 people at least participating in committees, but they were all 19 municipalities from Buell's Gore to Burlington. And then I think we had probably about 5 or 6 state agencies, and employers, the chamber, GBIC, of course, and then probably another 20 or 30, just other organizations, United Way being a big partner, the hospital, UVM.
And things were very public, too, so we didn't turn anyone away.
I mean, to get consensus in a document of 65 disparate organizations must have been, in its own right, a monumental task, as I'm sure, Frank, with the GBIC trying to get consensus like that is no small order.
But it worked. The lead part of this was the research element. And at least for our part, the economic plan, we had to do a new economic plan because our comprehensive economic development strategy, which, as I mentioned, we call CEDS, was expired or expiring, and the Economic Development Administration gave us like a 2-year period to complete this process so that we could submit a new document to them. Why is that important? Because if there's Economic Development Administration money or community development block grant money available to municipalities in our region, then you have to have these documents authorized by the appropriate federal administration, which is that administration. Right. So on our portion, Do you want me to tell you what we did in terms of research? I could
Sure.
do that. However you want to
That's fine.
do this. We started out, this team here and a couple other folks interviewed a number of economic consultants, economic and workforce specialists. So it was a team of economists, labor market specialists, and workforce specialists. So in what we do at GBIC, we pretty much focus on what we call the dollar importing, goods and services exporting employers. And the reason we do economic development is to create high wage, high value jobs that are sustainable and that are going to be the jobs that really form the base of your economy. So in Chittenden County, we're probably looking at about 260 employers that will fall in that category. And when I say dollar importing, goods and services exporting, we mean someone that either makes a product or performs a service and exports that out of the state of Vermont and brings $1 into the Vermont economy. Those are the dollars that form the economic base, and those are basically your long-term value-added jobs. So those are our primary focus. So we hired a team of economists, labor market specialists. The first thing that they did was they conducted what's called an economic base analysis. So it's like going in for your annual physical. This was a physical of Chittenden County's economy. And basically what it looked at our gross domestic product. It looked at where people worked, in what industry sector or enterprise sector, manufacturing, healthcare services.
Were there any surprises that you found in that evaluation?
There were some. The second component was a competitive assessment, which tells you where you fare with the state, how Chittenden County compares to the rest of Vermont, and how it fares with New England and with the United States and globally. And we learned a number of things. For one thing, manufacturing here is about 11.5, almost 12% of the economy.
Wow.
And when we talk about the economy, we mean employment. We're focused on employment. And the U.S. is about 10%, and Vermont, U.S. is 9 some odd percent, I'm sorry. And Vermont is about 10, so we're much stronger than the country, and we are stronger than Vermont. The other thing that we learned is that basically we are about 25% of the state's population, but we're about 35% of the state's economy.
Wow.
And workforce, we're pretty close to that as well. So Chittenden County really is the economic engine for the state of Vermont. We also, I think we immigrate about 26,000 workers into Chittenden County every day, and we outmigrate about 11,000, so we're a net immigrator of employees. And when we get into population projections, when we start talking about that, we've projected, about 50,000 new jobs between now and 2035. So we found industries, sectors that we were really strong in, and I don't really think there were any disappointments for us other than the understanding that our infrastructure needs to be better supported, transportation infrastructure. If people are going to work, they've got to be able to get to work. If we're going to be shipping products in and out of Vermont, then we have to have transportation systems, road, rail, air, that have to be accessible to the world. Because the way the economy is today, much is global. A lot of the companies that are here are making products or performing services that are utilized globally. They're not utilized here in Vermont.
Wow.
So.
Great. Charlie, add to that?
Yeah, just kind of, and so, that was one place we started, and then I think one of the other fundamental places we really started looking at all the planning that's gone on. When we started this project, at least I was kind of joking, we had 60 planning documents, every town, and so a lot of this was not about doing new planning. It was really about kind of
synthesizing,
coalescing, synthesizing, and so ultimately skip ahead here, but and Frank just mentioned one part of the analysis that we did, but we also looked at natural resources and public health and education, the built environment, transportation, and land use, and ended up coming up with kind of 8 priority strategies. And so that really, and with the economy is one of those, and then I can touch on some of these other ones, but one of the big things from our perspective, and Frank started to talk about this, but kind of how things come together. We tend to talk about it like transportation and land use, but it's really about the place. So we'll get to the people in a second. But, but when we talk about just how people interact in the place, whether they want to use the natural environment for recreation or the things we all appreciate about this region, the lake and the mountains, but also having rural lands and also having great places. Whether you're in downtown Richmond or downtown Burlington. And so there's a real focus in there in this plan about that really supports the municipal planning work that says the more we support investment in our current places, and really, and this is a little bit uncomfortable, but to accommodate what the market looks like it's asking for, accommodate more growth in our existing urban areas. Density and Plan BTV in Burlington is talking about that in the downtown or waterfront. South Burlington's talking about that in their city center work. Shelburne's talking about it when they talk about redeveloping Shelburne Road and what they're doing in their village. And there are other numerous examples around each of the towns. But ultimately, we came up with a strategy about 80% of new development happening in 15% of our county.
Wow.
And that 15% is where we already have sewer, and almost all that sewer. There's some rural villages that don't have sewer, and that's an issue in Westford and Huntington and a few other places. But that's where the transit services are. And of course, all those services really work better the more users that are on them.
Sure.
The transit system can't expand for one person going way out to pick up all those rural, people driving a long ways to get to work. And so whether it's sewer service, the more users you have paying into the system or the transit system, and a lot of other services will work better the more investment we have in the current urban areas. So it's a tough challenge, but it really got reinforced multiple times. It's a way to make communities walkable. And and that started kind of leading into some of the people aspect.
And so I wanted to kind of just take it over that and to Penrose for a moment, because everything that you're talking about, whether it be clean air, clean water, transportation, jobs,
affordable
housing. I mean, it really is a quality of life issue for the people. And that is in essence what the plan is trying to address in a very large scope with, again, benchmarks along the way, a tick marks, if you will, of signposts of accomplishments in a sense. So kind of give us the people aspect here, Penrose.
Well, we know that people are healthier if they live in healthy communities, that only about 10% of what keeps us healthy is the fact that we have a fabulous medical center. Fletcher Allen is glad we're there when people need us, but we prefer to see people healthy and in the community. It depends on how you count it, but at least 70% of what keeps us healthy is the communities we live in, the behaviors we choose. And obviously part of the behaviors we choose is influenced by the communities we live in. And so when you look at that, so how do we make these communities and keep these communities vital, vibrant, connected, where people feel safe, where they're safe environmentally with clean air and water, where they're safe from crime, they're physically safe, they can get the goods and services they need with minimal energy impacts. So all those pieces really do work together, and this gave us a fabulous platform to bring that discussion and dimension into talking about land use planning and transportation planning and how they interweave.
Great. Charlie, you want to add more on that? And
it really is hard to talk about in just a few minutes.
Yeah.
So I do encourage people to go actually look at the plan and get a feel for it. And so just to pick on a couple points that we haven't touched on too much, Penrose just started clean water. The Lake Champlain total maximum daily load standards are coming out in the next year. There's more stormwater requirements, but also erosion hazards and things that happen in the rest of the state in Irene, that where there's really some impacts. Excuse me.
It's okay.
Vibrating here. But really, kind of the safety and the water quality of our rivers and streams and lakes is a real big issue that is out there in our community, and that we were able to kind of bring some focus around preserving our rural landscape for local farms and local food was an aspect.
You also brought up affordable housing.
Yeah,
and, I mean, that's a
housing.
big issue
Yep.
here within, Burlington at least.
And it was, I think one of those primary things that came up from employers, that they have trouble recruiting people here for those high-wage jobs and high-value jobs because the salaries here compared to the cost of housing are not the same as other parts of the country. And so we really have a real issue with the housing supply, the affordable housing supply, and what that does, which means people stay in their homes and housing doesn't turn over and it's not affordable here. We need more housing within Chittenden County because what happens without it here is those long commutes, which has other impacts. It's not good for our air or for energy usage, and frankly for the cost to those people of just the transportation costs.
Sure, sure.
So
I'm excited to actually learn more about this project and to learn that, in fact, there is a dedicated set of professionals who are very passionate and committed to long-range planning for Chittenden County and considering every aspect of one's daily life and the impacts therein, and to bring us to a higher quality of life. I mean, that's in essence what this is.
Yeah, and I think a couple other values that we were really trying to bring to this conversation was accountability and also action. So we really wanted to get to the to-do list. So as you get to the end of the plan are really things that towns are doing, other partner organizations are doing, we're doing at a regional level. And so we want to get more action so that as we go each year, we kind of talk about what kind of progress are we making on those indicators, and also what accomplishments, what things have gotten done each year.
One of the statistics here that are pretty incredible for me to learn about it is that there is a projection of 50,000 new residents in the next 25 years here in Chittenden County, and what the implications are in terms of planning for growth and jobs, housing, transportation, et cetera. And you took this into account very, very seriously.
Yeah, it was one of those scary numbers early on. I was like, really?
Oh, yeah.
Because we kind of started this after the 2008, economic collapse. We were like, and things have been so flat or even a little down. Like, is this real? And I couldn't really make sense of it too well until I looked at what's going on nationally, and I think the whole nation is supposed to get 149 million people over that time frame. This is Census Bureau forecasts. You kind of look at that and you kind of go, geez, if the country is going to have that many people, Vermont, some of those people are going to want to move to Vermont, or we may get climate refugees, maybe that come here because it's moderate here, where it wasn't, or it's not so cold, and so when you think about it in that bigger context, if there's that much growth that's happening in the United States, some of it's going to happen here, and we are a very popular destination. We have a good economy, a good quality of life, good health, and so, and just the physical attributes that we have, the quality of life in place here.
And the beauty.
Yeah.
Frank, what are some of the key issues and actions that you see in this plan that are really going to make a difference in the residents' lives here?
Well, our main concern is that that the employers that are employing working Vermonters here remain competitive and sustainable and stay here. So, we look to take care to establish a working environment that will enable these employers to stay here and be competitive, whatever changes there are economically, globally, nationally, however you look at it, so to save the best of the best. And we've got a really diversified base of employers in Chittenden County. We're pretty fortunate for that. So housing is key. What Penrose says, it's about people and taking care of people. So if young people want to look at working here, they've got to earn a really decent wage to be able to afford to live. So adding more housing units is only going to help the overall affordability. And then, the university and other institutions like that are going to have to step up and take care of their needs as well. And the University of Vermont is stepping up. Champlain College is stepping up. St. Michael's, They're all looking at building more residential facilities to house the students to less impact the city of Burlington and the other cities around and municipalities around. So that is definitely a key. And then it's all about workforce. It's about providing the level of education, K through 12, pre-K. Pre-K is incredibly important. And then pre-K through 12 has got to be a focus, that the curriculum has to be focused on preparing students for either post-secondary education or for workforce opportunities. And then, because of our demographics in Vermont, we're fairly young. Chittenden County is fairly, not us, but
other people here.
Chittenden County is fairly young as compared to Vermont, but one of the great benefits of this project was we were using the 2010 census data. So we had all that fresh information. So we know we are going to be older than some of the other states, but we also know, in looking at our country is older as well. So, and most Americans are not going to be retiring at 62 or 65. They're going to continue to work. So we're going to have to focus on the re-education of those that are in the workforce today. And then we're going to have to provide opportunities for workers that want to be lifelong workers to educate. So, this is a team sport. And that's why when Penrose says it's about people, it's about looking at our entire community.
Yeah.
Other things that came up for us that was, I can't say shocking, but was sobering to look at was where we're going to house both housing and where we're going to house employers moving forward. So infill is going to be incredibly important so that we're not going out and building new infrastructure and raising taxes and causing much more burdens every way you look at it. That's important. But when you look at the industrial side, if we're looking at a population increase of 55,000 people to 2035, and then the projections were 50,000 of those people are going to be in the workforce. So I guess we're less concerned about office space, so space in our built areas, because the private sector generally steps up and builds those spaces to accommodate the office growth. We're more concerned about where we're going to house industry, so manufacturing. And Vermont has a lot of very highly specialized manufacturing, from IBM down to a company like FabTech in Colchester, or a really highly technologized company like Biotech in Winooski. We have a really diversified base of highly specialized manufacturing companies that are here in the state. And in Chittenden County, we have today about 16 million square feet of industrial facilities. I'm not talking about offices. These are industrial facilities. And of that 16 million, about 3.5 million of that is IBM. So, and we've been growing historically. If you go back, I'm thinking probably to 1994, around there, we've been increasing about 230,000 square feet a year. So if you look at the vacancy rates that we have today, we are about at full occupancy for the buildings that we have. So where do you look next? You look to industrial parks. And Chittenden County has about 51 lots available for commercial and industrial that are permitted and that are on sites that already have infrastructure. So of those 51 sites, we think probably 20 of them are appropriate for pure manufacturing, and the rest are a mix of value-added commercial and manufacturing. So we need to find a creative way to add industrial space that isn't costing
Well, we'll look to see.
$150,000 per acre. So look at our, go to our site and look at some of the reports there that are on the site, and it will help.
Penrose will ask you for a final word here about what you see as one of the most important key issues in this plan, and kind of nutshell it for me in terms of how you really see this plan impacting the residents of Chittenden County.
Well, I think it's probably more in the process. I think we need to keep the pressure on to the land use planners and the transportation planners that they need to keep people in mind. And I think we've had some other conversations around this. We're very good about saying all these sectors need to be paying attention to this, but we're not good about developing the kind of personal infrastructure that connects the work and really leverages each to the other. And we need to stay in the game and continue to do that.
Right. And so, Charlie, we'll ask you to wrap up here. In a sense, the next steps are the live presentation of the ECOS project on March 20th at the Sheraton Hotel. I believe that is at 5:30 p.m. That you're presenting. Is
we'll
that correct?
do that at like 6 p.m. On March 20th at the Sheraton. And then that we'll take input at that point, make some hopefully final revisions, and then we have one last public hearing and adoption scheduled for June 18th, and we'll actually have a joint meeting of the Regional Planning Commission and the GBIC board, so that we're doing all the things that the federal government wants us to do to make the plans compliant with the state and federal rules. So that's a little bureaucratic, but unfortunately that is the process. But the thing really is going to be the organizational relationships, the systems that we build, because there's things that need to happen at all levels. You know, whether it's legislative change, where maybe we're looking at permit systems and how towns and the state interact around water quality, or just development in our urban areas, our growth centers, the transportation investments. The legislature's talking about the need for transportation financing and funding right now. All these things are getting talked about in the legislature right now. Or energy, you know, the need to produce more energy locally and renewables and all the fun conversations around that. But they're real conversations that impact people and our places. So we have a lot of work to do in a lot of different areas, but I think the more we can do it together and keep things they're all moving in a pretty consistent direction. I think that's really the rewarding thing that's come out of the process, was the ability to really hold hands as we've gone through this with a lot of different partners.
And so just in terms of timeline, you know, you've got to finalize the plan. That's what, another 6 months, do you think? Or
No,
3
I hope
months?
not. Well, I hope we're really done voting in June.
Okay.
So I guess that is 3.5 months.
And then you present the plan, and the plan has to be accepted, and then it has to be implemented? Is that
And honestly, implementation has already really started.
Okay.
And I think, again, some of this is reinforcing activities. You know, so GBIC is already working on the industrial site issue as one example. And we used some of the federal funding to actually fund some specific projects. So like South Burlington and their city center was another one of the projects that we're funding, and they're updating their zoning to make or to help the development happen in the right place. It's walkable and transit oriented and water quality friendly. So things are happening right now, and we will get the formal adoption stuff done in the next couple months also. But the important thing I think for us at this stage is take a look at it, give us any comments that you can by March 20th. So that if there are any tweaks that should be made, we can make them over the next couple months and get to a final plan.
Wonderful. My thanks to Charlie Baker. He is the Executive Director of CCRPC, the Chittenden County Regional Planning Commission, Frank Chaffee, President of GBIC, and Penrose Jackson from Fletcher Allen. It's a reminder to you, the viewer, and residents of the city of Burlington and throughout Chittenden County to once again join the folks who are presenting the ECOS project for your review and for your input on March 20th, beginning at 6 p.m. at the Sheraton Hotel in Burlington. It's a free event, and all are encouraged to show up and let their voice be heard. For all of us at the Center for Media and Democracy, I'm Matt Kelly. Thanks for watching.